Good morning, Mount Calvary. It's good to see you on this Wednesday. We are transitioning into a YouTube video devotional thought, and so that's why this looks a little different, why it might sound a little different. I'm pre-recording these so that way we can get them out to you at a good time and make sure that that you receive these each and every day. We are continuing our devotional, our biblical thoughts around Acts chapter 2. I am going to put it up here on the screen. Acts chapter 2, verses 42 through 47. The believers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the community, to their shared meals, and to their prayers. A sense of awe came over everyone. God performed many wonders and signs through the apostles. All the believers were united and shared everything. They would sell pieces of property and possessions and distribute the proceeds to everyone who needed them. Every day they met together in the temple and ate in their homes. They shared food with gladness and simplicity. They praised God and demonstrated God's goodness to everyone. The Lord added daily to the community those who were being saved. That's our passage for today. We're going to focus on verse 45 especially, but I also didn't finish verse 44 yesterday, so I wanted to do that. Verse 44 says this: all the believers were united and shared everything. And verse 45 says this: they would sell pieces of property and possessions and distribute the proceeds to everyone who needed them. So we talked about being united yesterday, and today we're going to talk about everything was shared. Everything was shared. Now, normally when you read this or when you hear a sermon talked about around this or something close to this within Scripture, it always starts with a caveat. And the caveat is this: God couldn't possibly mean that everything was shared. There has to be some other way to see this reading. And as I talked about briefly yesterday, that's putting our theology on a text and then letting our theology guide our discussion rather than the text. And so we're going to stay within Acts chapter 2, and we're going to see what it actually says. And what it says there is actually that they did share everything. And share is the key word, right? Or at least the two words that we're going to talk about. Share is a big one. And that means that it's not saying there's no ownership. They just looked at ownership a bit differently. They looked at ownership as something that they have in order to share with others. So they have things in order that others could have them too. They have things so that they could share the joy of what those things do for them, not bring them, but do for them in their lives. And that could be a home, that could be equipment. During this day, they didn't have cars, right? But they had equipment, they had clothing, they had a lot of the things that we have, just a bit differently, and they shared it all. That's the second word, an important word too. They shared everything. That means nothing was off limits in what they shared. Of course, they didn't share people, that would be ridiculous, but they shared all of their possessions. They shared it with those inside the body of Christ, within the community in Jerusalem. And that's a basic thing that we teach our kids way from the beginning of life. And then we kind of learn throughout life. There are certain things that we're willing to share or that we shouldn't have to share. Things that are exclusively mine, our money being a big one, right? And we kind of lose sight of that. It's easy to tell kids to share their toys because we as parents don't see their toys as all that important. Right? But is it easy for us to share our homes with people? Is it easy for us to share our own possessions with people? That's the challenge that's being presented to us today. Are we willing to share what we have with other Christians? Are we able to do that with people in Mount Calvary? And at the end of verse 45, those specifically who need them. Are we willing to share everything? Now you might say to yourself right now, yes, in theory, I'm willing to do that, but no one comes and asks me, right? Yeah, of course, but that's a way for us to kind of protect what we have. We're not really looking for opportunities to share what we have. We're just open to the possibility if it does come, which it never will, and we know that. But verse 45 continues, and what the apostles do there and what the believers do there is really quite remarkable. They not only see their possessions as being for other people, or at least potentially for other people in a very active and intentional way instead of the passive way we do it, but they actually sold their property. They sold what they had and gave it to those who needed it. Gave it to those within the community. We're talking about being a church, being a community right now. They sold what they had and gave it to others. And that's really quite remarkable, right? Because oftentimes we sell what we don't want and give it to ourselves, right? So we have garage sales, and those garage sales help us buy bigger and better toys. We go and we sell things. If you're a bit younger, you sell them online, and those things help you buy new things, right? As you get those proceeds. But they sold what they had in Acts chapter 2 and gave it to those who needed them. This is a really remarkable time for us in this coronavirus age, and I just want to point out two types of people that you could sell your possessions to give the proceeds to. The first is quite simple, and for both of these, you can just flip through our directory. We don't have to have this big plan to get everybody that we could possibly know and everyone who has possible needs and do it for them. No, just flip through our directory, or if you know somebody inside our church family that meets these criteria, you can call them up, you can talk to them. You can do these things, all right? So the first group is simple. It's those who are older and the older adults. So we're talking about 70s, 80s, certainly 90s. These are people who probably feel more trapped than anyone else because they can't really go out. Their kids aren't going to take them out anymore if that's something that they need to do. Sometimes their kids have told them to stay home. And as a result, there's this weird thing that happens, and people, everyone is experiencing this, is that we need support systems in ways that we didn't have them before. And those who are older, they've built a life, as we all do, and now they're in a place where maybe they're not able to get what they need. I'm not saying this is true for everyone who's 70 or older, but certainly for some of them. And so what we can do is we can sell our possessions, whether it's literally selling what we have or potentially like selling what we would potentially buy for ourselves and give that money to someone else. And we can buy groceries for them, send them to their house. We can buy necessities for them and send them to their house. We can do all sorts of things and sell our possessions, whether they're actual or they are, potential of what we would be buying with our money, and just give that to someone else. We're talking about older people. The other group are people who are younger and they need their jobs more than most of us. And some of us who have young families, we have little kids that we want to take care of. And some of us in our church, in our world, we're getting laid off. We are not having the jobs that we once had. And living paycheck to paycheck already and then getting laid off means that it's really hard for us to provide for the necessities, the basics of life. And then, again, we're talking about foods and we're talking about basic necessities from Target or Walmart or whatever. And what you can do is you can go through the directory, you can find somebody who has younger kids, and you can ask, is there anything we can get for you? I'd love to buy something for you and send it to you. We have a ton of availability for that. There are ways that Walmart and others deliver. Yeah, it costs a little bit more, but they do that. Grocery stores are delivering, or at least offering pickup. So maybe you can pick up and then put the groceries on the porch for somebody. There's lots of things that we could be doing to sell what we have or to use our money and give it to those who are in need. And those are two types of people that have need. Now, you probably know others in your life that may have need, and now is the time. Now is the time to be able to sell what we have, to use the money that we have, knowing that it's not our money, it's money to share with others, and give that so that they have what they need. And finally, I want you to know that this is not the crisis, right? We are starting into a period of time. The president just said 30 days till the end of April. So we are just starting the time this month of what this crisis is really going to look like in our country, but also here in our city and in our state. And it's going to get harder and harder before it gets better. It will get better, but it's going to get harder first. And that is something where usually we can reflect on ourselves and feel sad, but today is an opportunity to reflect on others and what they need. And use the gifts that God has given you. Sell what you have. Give what you have that's yours, that's not really yours, but meant to be shared. And help those who need it. Have a great day today. We will see you tomorrow as we continue with Acts chapter 2. If you haven't already, please check us out on Facebook. You can go to facebook.com/mtcfw. And when you go there, you'll see a lot of our updates that we have. We're doing a kind of a news update each day at 5 o'clock. And we're also doing a live prayer time together at 8:30 in the evening. I really want to encourage you to join us on Facebook so that you get those streamed to you, so that you get more information about what's going on. You can also check us out at mtcfw.org. Specifically, on the top menu when you get there, there is a link to our online campus. If you click there, it will take you to a temporary page where we have everything that we're doing during this COVID-19 time. And that includes what our worship looks like, what our Bible studies look like, and also what everything else kind of looks like. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can, of course, reach me at both of those places. There's information there, but the primary way is through my email. You can contact me at pastornate@mtcfw.org, and there you can ask me any questions. You can give me any feedback. I'd appreciate feedback. We're trying our best, and we're learning on the fly, and anything that you have to offer to show me how I can improve is incredibly helpful. But thank you for watching today. We'll see you next time.